Awesome. So, holy cow, we have a packed crowd today. Thanks so much for being here. Before we hop into the content, I like to kind of introduce myself, and then I want to get to know you guys a little bit. I know some familiar faces that I've seen around the office, and some people I don't know yet. So, I'm going to introduce myself, and then we're going to go around. I want you to introduce yourself as well. Just say your name, and then if you're on a team, say what team you're on, and if you're solo, say, hey, I'm solo. So, just want to get to know the room just a little bit. So, first of all, who am I? I'm the lead buyer specialist for WSG Homes. You probably haven't seen me in the office a whole lot because we're actually off-site. We're in the office condos behind Brick House, where it's called a mega agent office. So I run the buy side for us. I've been in real estate legally for about 3 years. My mother's been doing it about 14, so I was slave labor when I turned 16, and so she had me doing all that kind of fun stuff beforehand. Opening open houses for things like that. But legally, I've had my license for about 3 years. I've done just over $5 million this year. Founder president of the Peak Success chapter here in BNI, and I'm actually starting a KWYP, which is the Young Professionals chapter here in Louisville. We're in the very infancy stages right now, so if you're interested in that, definitely get with me afterwards. I want to talk to you guys about that. Go Cats, I'm a huge UK fan. I got 2 fur babies, Roxy and Ruby, and a beautiful wife, Jenny. So, those are my babies. Love them to death. Look at how cute they are. They got their mom's looks, not their dad's. So who are you guys? And I'm going to start on this side of the room. We'll go back, around, and then up. So Steve?
Steve Vitello. I've been in real estate for about 6 months, and I'm on the Greater Louisville Homes team.
Cool. Steve.
I'm Shamila. I've been in real estate for like 6 months. I'm with River Valley.
River Valley. Cool.
I'm Angela Hardy-Tino. I've been in the business since '92, but have been licensed for 4 years. And I'm on Becky Lush's team, Team Louisville Homes.
So you were in the business in '92. What did you do before you were an agent?
I was a personal assistant for one agent for 15 years.
And then you were like, gosh, I can do this by now. I learned
And
it.
then, yeah, and then I've bounced around. I'm like an assistant whore, I guess. I'm done with that. I'm an agent, but I'm still team support for Becky. So.
Right. Cool.
My name is Tiara Bree. I've been with the agent for a month, and I'm on Lisa Warfield's team.
Awesome.
I'm Joni Lustig, and I have been licensed for 2 years, and I moved from the other KW office to this office and joined Catherine's Tyler's team.
Welcome. Who's that in the back?
Kieran Bott, on the GLH team, been licensed since 2004.
My name's Ronnie Fox. I'm on the Great Louisville Homes team. I've been licensed 3 years and been in the business about 2.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Teresa Calvin. I've been licensed for a year, and I'm a solo agent.
Cool.
My name's Debbie McNichol, and I'm not an agent. I start classes in January,
Exciting.
and just know Flora, so just happy to jump in.
Awesome.
Be part of this.
Welcome. Some of this will hopefully make sense.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm Dustin Barnes, same boat. I'll be licensed in January. I just moved to the area a week ago.
My name is Haley Booth. I'm on the Vidito team. I've been licensed since April, so about 8 months.
Cool.
I'm Krista Bichar. I'm on the Brown Home Group team, and I've also been in real estate for a month.
Awesome.
I'm Amanda. I don't have my license yet either, but I'm on Drew's team, WSG. So. I'm Samantha. I'm on Drew's team. I'm actually the admin, so I'm not licensed yet, but I'm planning to get licensed in January.
A lot of January people.
I'm Josh Williams. I'm also with Mr. Drew with him here. I will be taking my exam on Wednesday. So
His state exam. So after we're done here, we're going to all send good vibes to Josh. Okay, so I like that we have people who aren't even agents yet and people who've been in the business for a while. I think Karen is a testament to KW culture in that we're always learning, we're always trying to better ourselves. Nobody ever knows everything in this business. So I know Karen's been in the business longer than I have, yet she's here to hear what I have to say. I think that's a great testament to the kind of the KW culture, right? I think that's so cool. Just wanted to point that out. So, okay, let's talk. What is a buyer consultation and do you do them currently? I know there's some people who aren't quite licensed in the room, so maybe you can't answer this. But for those of you who are licensed, who has done a buyer consult ever? No, right or wrong? Okay, so a few hands are still down. You have not done a buyer consult ever. For those of you who have done buyer consults, now the way I teach is I don't talk a whole lot. I want you guys to talk just as much as I do, if not more. So for those of you who've done a buyer consult, why do you do them? Does anybody care to share? Go ahead.
Get a lot of information up front, so it makes, and you can also narrow down the amount that you show somebody if you get all the correct information up front.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other reasons?
Yeah, just setting expectations, I think, is huge because, you know, laying out how the process works and kind of explaining, you know, what they're going to be paying up front, you know, and the whole process makes it a lot easier for you and for them, you know.
So I'm sure you guys have seen where I've been posting on the resource page about this. The biggest thing, and we're gonna go over it in just a second, is you just said it right there, expectations, right? You set the expectations. Here's what to expect throughout this entire process. Like if you tell them up front, hey, you're gonna have to pay a $500 appraisal fee. If you never have that conversation with them, you may get a phone call that's like, why do I have to pay this $500 appraisal fee?
Yeah.
But if you tell them beforehand, they're like, oh, okay, cool, no worries.
Yeah.
So, okay. So some of you do, some of you don't. Hopefully, you guys will start doing them after this, and we won't have to look at you like this. So, because buyer consults are always a very good idea. And in today's market especially, it's never been more important. Let me expand on that just a little bit on what I mean. How many of you guys do internet leads? I would imagine most people's hands are in the air, right? A lot of us are on the internet, and when you call your internet leads, are you the first realtor they've talked to? Most of the time, no, unless you're like just smack awesome, you're the first website that they visited and you call them immediately, you may be the first realtor they talk to. But generally you're not. So what a buyer consultation does, and it's one of the 3 components of it, is you also get what's called a buyer's agency agreement signed. What is that? It's just like a listing agreement. Hey, listen, when I go to buy my house, I want you to be my agent. Right? Now you gotta earn the right to ask that question and have them sign that piece of paper, but that's another reason why it's super duper important. Because today's market is everything is internet, right? The internet's dominating our industry. So with that in mind, it's so important to have a buyer consult. So what are the 3 objectives? Number 1 and most important, you have to establish the rapport. You can set all the expectations you want. You can have the buyer agency agreement signed, or you can put it in front of them. If you don't have rapport with these people, they're not gonna wanna use you as an agent, right? So we have a rule of thumb on our team. When I meet with a client to have a buyer consultation, my goal is to talk as little as possible. Because the more someone talks about themselves, we as humans love talking about ourselves. It's just one of our traits. So the more they can talk about themselves, the better they feel about the connection with you, right? So the more they talk, the better. So your first goal is to establish rapport. Your second goal is to get that buyer agency agreement signed like we just talked about. And then, of course, it all comes down to expectations. Now, expectations are such a wide, there's so many expectations that you could set, right? There's a few on our team that, through a lot of failure, we said, okay, we're never going through that again, so now we set the expectation in the buyer consultation. So, I cannot remember your name, but you said, Joni, thank you. You said number of showings. That's a huge one. So do you mind expanding on what you mean by that and how you set that expectation?
Well, you discuss all the criteria that fit what they're looking for exactly, and then you can go through, I guess, different listings and narrow it down so that you say, I want to show you the 3 best houses that are going to meet your needs. And that way you're not trampling all over the city and going to various things that don't.
Please don't. I've done that. Has anybody else done that? Have you shown one buyer like 1 million houses in like every county in Kentucky?
Never in, not every county, but yeah.
Please.
I just went through something that it was, and we didn't do a buyer consultation, and I was like, this is why this happened. So.
Almost every frustration that we've experienced to this point, when we really dive into it and say, what could we do differently next time? It's have the conversation on the front end before we ever get into this situation, right? That's why this first initial meeting is so important. So I like what you said there. I'm gonna take you to see the 3 best houses that are out there, right? I went to family reunion and I heard a script very similar to that. It was like, hey, let's go ahead and pick the 3 best ones out there right now because I'd really like to sell you one of the top 3 that match what you're looking for. Doesn't that make sense? And like her average number of showings is like 2 point something. So ours is a little different. I typically tell people, hey, listen, if I'm showing you 8, 9, 10 homes, I'm not doing my job effectively. It means that what I'm seeing in my head and what you're seeing in your head are not connected. So if we're seeing 8, 9, 10, I may say, hey, let's sit down and have another meeting. Let me get on your page, because clearly I'm not doing my job effectively, right? And it's hilarious, because then when I start showing people property, they're like, this is the 7th house we've seen, is everything okay? Like, they start having the conversation, and then I don't need to. And it all started because I was taking someone, I probably showed them 50 houses, and my goodness, I will never do that again.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, I know, that's how I felt.
Right? So expectations is a big one. So outside of number of homes, who can think of another expectation that you should set in that initial meeting?
One more thing, you should
Yeah.
probably have pre-approval before you start even going out.
That's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever shown a buyer a property who's not ready to buy? You learn real quick not to do that anymore, don't you? So yeah, if they're not already with a lender by the time you sit down, that action plan when they leave is, hey, listen, call this person. They're gonna let us know what price range you're approved for, and then we'll reconvene at that time and we'll talk about where we wanna go see. Don't ever take somebody out unless you know they're pre-approved, right? It's a waste of your time. Okay, what's another expectation?
It just sets a lot of credibility up.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, on both sides. So, you know, when I did corporate sales. So when you sit down with a customer and you're like, this is what's gonna happen, and it actually comes true.
Right.
It shows that you know exactly what you're talking about, even if it's the good or the bad. Like, a lot of things fall through in inspections, and, you know, if the inspection doesn't go well, they're more likely to stay with you and understand, okay, it's not my realtor that sucked, it was just
Right.
the situation. So just kind of walking them through the process. I'm new in real estate, and I'm understanding that a lot of people really have no idea about real estate. So, you know, just understanding not everything's gonna happen as quickly as people want them to.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you hit on actually 3 things there. I don't even know if you did it on purpose or not. So one is inspections, right? Have you ever had a buyer cancel a contract because of a leaky pipe? Because they have unrealistic expectations of what an inspection should look like? I tell people in a buyer consultation, hey, listen, we're gonna have an inspection. It's not a pass and a fail. It's a here's what's wrong with the house. Do you still wanna move forward or not? And we're gonna pay attention to the big stuff. Does it need a new roof? Is there mold? Is there a foundational issue? I tell them straight up, hey, if there's a leaky pipe, we may ask for it to be done, but is it the worst thing in the world if it's not? Everything about the house is perfect. But here's the thing, if you're in that moment where they're freaking out about that and you have that conversation, are you gonna come across as coming from contribution, or are you gonna come across as trying to keep the sale in your dollar amount? That's what I'm worried about, right? I didn't wanna come across as salesy, that's not my personality type. So I wanted to make sure I didn't come across as salesy. So now I have the conversation on the front end of, hey, here's what we wanna pay attention to in inspections. So that's one of the 3 that you hit. And I had 2 more, but good grief, they're gone now. Cause again, that's my personality. Anybody else? What other expectations can you set in the buyer consult?
Well, I think you were talking about the fees, like everything that they're
Mhm.
going to have to pay up front is huge,
Yep.
cause they might not have known they had to pay the appraisal fee or, you know, inspection fee and all that.
We have a sheet that we bring, and it breaks down every single fee they're responsible for, and we fill it out together, and I have them initial it.
Yeah.
Hey, remember, we talked about this, you know, these are estimations only.
Right.
But this is what I bring, and we go through it together, and I say, what does that look like? Does it look like you're ready now, or does it look like we need to pump the brakes a little bit? Because that's another thing, that was one of the ones that you had said, their timeline. What if, you know, you ask specific questions, which one of you said earlier, what if they're 6 months down the road, but you're showing a property now? Again, that's a waste of your time. Your time is too valuable to be showing people property who aren't gonna buy for a little bit, right? You need to focus on helping as many families as possible now. So have that conversation. Okay, if you wanna buy in 6 months, we probably need to be looking at property in 3. Right? In the meantime, I'm gonna keep sending you stuff. And if you wanna go out sooner, let me know, but this is gonna be my priority as of now. Right? So really ask them questions, figure out when they're gonna go. And then, like I said, we talk about that, and then through that, are you ready now, or you wanna wait a little bit and kind of fluff that account a little bit so you can pay for the inspection and everything else. And I've actually had people, another thing that the buyer consult can do is generate excitement in people. And some people are like, ooh, I can go out and get a loan for this, right? And then you can be like, please don't. Or visit the bank of mom and dad and let them help you with the inspection money,
Yeah.
right? So, but what it does is it opens a line of communication that you may not otherwise have gotten, so you can have those conversations. What's another expectation you can set? Yep.
Let them know what to expect of me, my job, my hours.
That's the big one, yeah.
Best ways to
different things there. Showing her own value, right? Here's how I work, here's what I'm going to do for you. And the biggest one there, and I was hoping somebody would say this, is your hours, right? New agents, how many of you are like, oh my gosh, I wanna work as much as possible? That was me when I started, right? I was like, you wanna go see a house? Cool, let's go, hop in my car. You wanna go see a house? Cool, let's go. And I was working until 9, 10 o'clock. And I told people, if you ever need anything, you reach out to me. You get a couple phone calls at midnight, that won't happen anymore.
Yeah, that's when I learned to put my, I had a 12:30 call on a Sunday night, and that's when my phone went on Do Not Disturb.
Exactly.
I learned that on the iPhone function, but, yeah.
Learn from our mistakes. Tell them up front, hey, these are my hours. 8 to 8, you can pretty much get me. You know, if you leave me a voicemail, I'll call you back as soon as I can. I may have other appointments, but I'll get back to you, I promise. If it's after 8, you're gonna wait till the next day. Oh, and by the way, here's my off day every week, right? If you don't have an off day a week, you need one. And maybe if you're not that busy, that's okay, but once you start to get busy, it's gonna be harder and harder to find that off day. Super important because you will get burnt out.
What's a good one?
Sundays,
Some people take Sundays if you don't do open houses. In an ideal world, mine is Wednesdays. Because Monday and Friday we have meetings on our team. Saturday I'm showing a lot of properties. Sunday I generally do an open house. So I take a day in the middle of the week. But it's whatever fits with your schedule, right? You get to, the beauty of this industry, you can make your own schedule. If you don't want to work on Mondays, Fridays, or Saturdays, you can. Some people might not like that, but it's okay. That's still your schedule. But you need to tell them up front, hey, this is my day off every single week. Because you do need some downtime to recharge and so you can stay at it 100% all the time. All right, any other expectations that you can set in a buyer consult?
The only other thing that I would tell new agents is that some buyers don't realize they don't have to pay anything, the seller pays the commission.
Yes.
If you say that up front, it helps them want you more. So.
Yep, we break it down. I say, hey, this is my favorite part. I don't know if you know this. I work for you for free. Seller pays me to work on your behalf. How cool is that? And most buyers do not know that. They're like, what? I don't have to pay you? I'm like, no, you get me for free. Can you imagine? You get this. And that's exactly what they do. And that smile and laughter releases endorphins. They like me more. Strategic. What other expectations?
And as part of the process too, you know, that first half you're really with them and you talk a lot and it's constant. And then once you kind of get past or get to the appraisal order, it's all about more so the lender and that relationship. So I kind of let them know I'm always here. I check in, you know, let them know what day of the week or I do follow up. But that second half is going to be a whole lot less of me and a whole lot more with the lender. And as fast as they can, you know, cooperate and get that done, then we can make it to the closing table on time or within the contract deadline or whatever.
That's perfect. And that's very similar. We have what's called the worry conversation with people. And we tell them, hey, inevitably, if we're with a couple, we say, all right, who's the worrier out of the two of you? And we say, inevitably, during this process, at some point, one of you two is going to start worrying. Because every transaction has a hiccup, right? We tell them up front, hey, listen, there's going to be a screw up. Because there will be a screw up. It's real estate. It's complicated. Something's going to go wrong. And if it doesn't go wrong, holy cow, you look like a rock star to them. Right? So who's my worrier? You get them and you say, okay, cool, we're going to have a conversation right now. When you start worrying, we believe that worry, all it is just a frustration from a lack of information. So if you're worried about something, you just need more information from me. So when you start worrying, I want you to tell on yourself and reach out to me. You may not even know what you're worried about. It's my job to ask the right questions to figure out what you're worried about, give you the necessary information you need to move forward without worry. And then I tell the other person, and if they don't tell on themselves and they're keeping you up at night, asking you all these questions, I want you to tell on them. And it becomes a fun little game, and before you know it, you're getting text messages, hey, so-and-so is worried, and then like 2 minutes later, hey, I'm worried. They're like racing each other to see who can tell you quicker. But now they're volunteering, hey, we got this frustration that's going on. They allow you to get in there and calm everything down. And then you don't get to the closing table with upset people, right? So you get to the closing table, everybody's happy. Hey, listen, I'd love some referrals. Is that okay? What about the expectation of asking for a referral? Has anybody ever done that in a buyer consultation? I wrap up every single buyer consultation with, did you think this was beneficial? Oh yeah, this was great. Awesome. Who do you know of right now that might be able to have the same conversation, that would benefit from it? Right? My first listing I ever did, and I know I'm a buyer specialist, I shouldn't do listings, but we're in the new Keller model where I do 20% listings, 80% buyers. First listing I ever got was a referral from a buyer consultation. Those people to this day are still not under contract. They're still going through credit repair. That listing is already sold. Ask the question, set the expectation. Hey, listen, we have client events. We'd love you to come to our client events. Hey, listen, we love referrals. If you thought today was beneficial, who do you know that might benefit from it also? Right? Don't be afraid to have those conversations. What other expectations can you set in the buyer consult? I could spend like a million minutes on this. There's so many expectations.
We always ask, like, as an agent, what can we do to make your experience like a 5-star experience? Or
That's a great one.
whichever, yeah.
That is a great one that we recently incorporated. We didn't even think about that. So the fact that you're already doing that, that's awesome. What's the one thing I can do for you outside of selling you a house that would just be awesome in your eyes? And then you know that going forward. Most people, what it is communication. Okay, how many times would you like me to communicate with you every week? Right? If they tell you, hey, I'd love to hear from you twice a week, cool, put it on your calendar. Every Monday and every Friday, have a conversation with them. It can be a text, right? Rhonda mentioned, how do you want to be communicated with? How do they want to be communicated with? Do they want to be email? Do they want to be text? Do they want to be phone calls? Right? If it's a millennial, it's probably a text, because that's just how we are.
Yeah.
If it's an older person, it's probably email. And if it's in the middle, it's probably over the phone. That's what my experience has taught me. But ask them. Don't assume. You know what they say about people who assume things. Right? Don't let that happen to you. What else? Other expectations? Who's experienced the frustration with a buyer that we haven't already talked about?
Sometimes they make it hard on you because they keep changing their needs.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I have this in my buyer's consult, like if it's a man and wife and they're totally on two, like he wants a fixer-upper because he got a new set of tools.
Right.
And she wants it moving ready and she didn't want him to touch anything. Then I tell them, until they get on the same page, I really can't help them. That they need to might need to step away or call me and we have a conversation of seriously, where do we want to be together? And then once they come back together, because I can't please both of them, they're on totally different pages and I'm gonna run myself ragged through the city and county, because they just want two totally different things. So I kind of talk to them as a couple about, what do you really need and, make sure they're on the same page so that I can help them.
Yeah,
Right.
it's good to address that first, because that's one of the problems when I was showing them, they thought they were on the same page, they wanted this, and this, all on paper, this is what they wanted, but when they started looking at houses, they were like, wait a minute, I don't want this, and the other one, they realized they were not on the same page at all. So
Yeah.
addressing it at first in the consultation, they might realize like, oh, wait, we're not on the same page like I thought we were.
Because more than likely before that meeting with you, they haven't had that conversation. Right? We want to believe the best in everybody, and married couples totally have that, or girlfriend, boyfriends, whoever, they totally have that conversation before they ever meet with me, right? Not always. Right? It could be a spur of the moment thing. They haven't always had that conversation, so that is huge. Get them on the same page, and then you can get on that page. Because you can't get on both their pages if they're on different ones.
Yeah.
Right? So one thing we started doing when it was a seller's market, which we're starting to shift out now, but I would still use it, is we give each of them one non-negotiable. And we say, what's your one non-negotiable? What's your one non-negotiable? If the house doesn't have it, I'm not taking you to see it. And I tell them that. And I tell them, if the house doesn't have this, I'm talking you out of buying it. You're hiring me for a reason, and that is to get you the house that you want. You're not allowed to settle. I'm not selling you a house and have you mad at me 6 months later because you chose a house that wasn't right for you. So I tell them, I'm going to hold you accountable to what you tell me today is most important. However, if that changes, just let me know, right? But if you don't let me know before, and I've probably talked people out of more houses than I've sold.
Yeah.
Because, especially, and that's on purpose,
Yeah.
right? especially with flips, right? Beer goggles, everybody knows what a beer goggle is. You have a little too much to drink and
Yeah.
you start seeing things differently. I believe there's flip goggles. You go into a flip, oh my gosh, it's so pretty, it's so awesome, it's so this, but it's not the house for you,
Yeah.
right? So get them on the same page, you get on their page with them, and don't let them deviate from that page. Unless they have the conversation with you of, hey, since we started looking, you know, our what we're looking for has changed, which can happen, right? But that's on showing the property and not in the buyer consultation, right? Any other expectations? Are you seeing how many conversations you can have? It's a lot, yeah.
You might touch on this later, but I think the expectation of having a buyer consultation is a big struggle. You know, it seems like
Okay.
a lot of people just wanna start looking at houses and you're like, yeah, I'll meet you there. And then you're too deep in,
Mhm.
and then things start around when you're like, oh, I should've told you that, and that, and here we are. So how do you set that early on? I know some realtors are like, if you're not meeting me at the office, we're not gonna go look at anything, that kind of thing, but what do you suggest?
So what we do, I'm just gonna suggest whatever works for you, and whatever you're comfortable with, right? I'm not gonna push what we do on you. I will gladly share what we do,
What options do you know of?
and then I will let you go from there. What we do is if it's an internet lead, and they are just fighting you to book an appointment, but they really wanna go see a house, they get one free look. And when I'm at the showing with them, I know one of two things is gonna happen. I'm gonna sell the house, or I'm gonna book a buyer consultation, or I'm never working with them again. I've been dragged around too many times by internet leads who just wanna look at houses. It's not gonna happen. So when they get one free look, I will meet them at that first property, and I will say, okay, listen, I understand you're looking for a home, that's cool. The way that my team does things is we like to meet with you at wherever. We typically like to have them at the office, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But listen, my team really likes to meet with you. I like to know what you're looking for. And the way I spin it is I'm in an office of over 250 agents, and in this heavy multiple offer market that we're in, I try to find you something that's not on the market yet. But I can't have that conversation until I know what you're looking for. So let's sit down and talk about what it is that you're looking for so I can go talk to those 250 agents and see if I can find you something off the market so we don't have to fight for it. So that's how I spend it. And I give them one free look. And if they don't agree to the buyer consultation and I didn't sell them the house and they keep wanting to go look at property, I keep pushing the buyer consultation and they will never get me in another property. Now, what if you've already shown them like 5 or 6 houses and then you're like, oh, I forgot to have a buyer consultation. What do you do at that point? Well, what I would do is I told you, I have the conversation in the buyer consult of, hey, if I was showing you 8, 9, 10 houses, I'm not doing my job effectively. Just bust into that script. If you're at the 6th house and you're like, ooh, I forgot to do a buyer consult, what do I do? Hey, listen guys, I know this one's not the one. You know, I just had an idea. It sounds like I'm not doing my job effectively. Let's go get some coffee and let's talk about what it is you guys are looking for. Let me get on your page, right? Just, you have to, there's 2 ways to get their butts in the seat. Get them excited and show them value. When you can do both, they're going to show up. When you do one of them, they might show up, and if you don't do either one, there's not a snowball's chance, and you know where that they're going to show up. That answer your question? Anything else as far as the expectations go? What about the expectation of, and I will hit on this now, where do you meet them? The office. Do you ever go to their house?
If you're listening.
If you're listening, try not to, right? Inevitably, there will be those people that are really fight you tooth and nail. If you decide to do that, either take someone with you, let someone know you're going, just be safe, right? Actually, I've been in the business a minute now, and I walked into a vacant house the other day, and there was a homeless person in there, scared the Jesus out of me. So be safe, right? Safety is the most important thing. If you can meet them at the office, meet them at the office. Because A, you have home field advantage. You're gonna feel comfortable. They're gonna be a little bit out of their element, which is okay, but then you need to make them feel comfortable in buyer consultation. Plus, what it gives you the ability to do is if you have a PowerPoint, cool, we don't. But what I do at the very end is I pull up Flex. And I say, hey, let's see what's out there right now with the criteria that you're in. If they have unrealistic expectations about what they're gonna find in a house, use flex.
Yeah.
Pull it up there.
We do that. I was about to say, once you're done talking and then do it at the end, you can kind of show them, okay, you want 3 beds, 2 bath, how much square footage? Kind of like check everything off and show them what is for sale in that area, so that they kind of know, like you said, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I
All of a
thought we were
sudden-
gonna get a lot more house for this price, or, you know, so that helps a lot.
Exactly. And all of a sudden they're handling their own objections, right? I have to have a fireplace.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it in here. Let's see. We got 41 before I put in the fireplace. Put in the fireplace. I got
2.
1. And they're like, ooh, maybe I can have an outdoor fireplace, one of those fire pits. But let the numbers do the talking, right? You don't have to. And that's another biggie. Don't address every objection. Address the important ones, but don't address every objection because you're gonna come across as a know-it-all. Nobody wants to work with a know-it-all, right? Put the objection in your pocket, answer it later. Yeah.
Back to pre-approval, how about for the one, like internet leads or referrals, who say, oh, I can get pre-approved in 15 minutes. I just wanna go see the house and if I like it, go from there. But you know that it's best for them to get pre-approved, they just keep fighting you. How do you handle those?
So 2 things I would have to say about that. If they're fighting you, it's for a reason. They probably know there's something on their credit or something, or they're just too proud. Push and push.
If it's a pride issue.
If it's a pride issue, here's what I would say to that. Hey, listen, that's great. I'll meet you at the property. About how far away do you live from it? 20 minutes. Cool, you said pre-approval will take you 15 minutes. Can you do that on the way there? Ask the question, right? You don't know them from Adam. You don't want to waste your time. What is the harm in asking the question? Worst case scenario, you find out they're not pre-approved and you don't waste your time going out there. Best case scenario, they get pre-approved, you go sell them the house.
And what if they still say, oh, I'll wait.
Okay, so what is the benefit in waiting? Just dig, right? Figure out what is causing them to wait so long, get to the root of it, and then just handle it, right? More often than not though, the people who have ever gotten pushback on getting pre-approved, they have a credit issue and they know about it. Listen, if it's a 15-minute conversation, you know, what's stopping you from having it right now? You're talking to me. What's stopping you from having it? And then shut up, right? Has everybody taken the disc? Who's a high I? Clearly I am. Your I, whenever you ask a difficult question, will want to feed them answers. Shut up, right? The worst thing you can do is offer them answers. So, and I know this is a tangent, but when you're on the phone with someone and you ask them a difficult question, be quiet. Fight every urge, and if you need to put them on mute and then like you say something to them, I've done that, I'm not kidding. Whatever you need to do, because when you ask the question, the person who talks first loses when it's a difficult question like that. Believe me, as uncomfortable as you are, they're like 3 times more uncomfortable and they will eventually say something. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. So ask them that. Listen, I'd love to understand your situation. What is causing you not to get pre-approved yet if it's so easy for you? Just ask. And then once you get to the objection, just handle it. Good question though. Anything else as far as expectations that you could think of? Any other frustrations that you've had, like, I never want to have that again, but I don't know what expectations I didn't set? I'll share one of mine. Expectations, if you're on a team, expectations of how the team works. Hey, listen, you're gonna get me, and actually I have a showing agent, which will be Josh here in just a minute once he's licensed. So I have to set the expectation of, hey, listen, you're gonna meet with me, you're gonna get Josh to show you property, and then I'm gonna come back into the situation when it's time to negotiate, because that's what I'm good at. I have to set that expectation, and if you deliver it in the right way, they're not going to feel like they're getting passed around. And they never should feel like that, right? So Josh and I will go on the buyer consultation together, and it's my job to build him up. Hey, listen, Josh shows so much property, he's in way more houses than I am. He's the one who's gonna be showing you the property. It's my job, because what I'm really good at is negotiating. And I'm like a shark in the water, right? I tell him that. So it's my job to negotiate and to get you the best house for the best price. Josh's job is to find you the best house. Mine's to get it for you the best price. You get 2 agents for the price of 1. And then guess what? When you go under contract, you're gonna get Samantha coming alongside you as our account manager to walk you through all the paperwork I don't wanna do and I'm really bad at. Right? Everybody on our team is in a strength role for a reason. I don't do anything I'm not good at, and neither do they. So you're gonna get us doing what we're best at. And then you have to ask them, how do you feel about that? Because some people will not like being on a team. Just straight up, they won't like it. They're gonna want you there at showings, and if that's how it is, that's how it is. Let's set that expectation up front. This is how the team works. Because again, you don't wanna get to the closing table and they're like, I don't know who to expect at the closing table. I don't know who to call when I have this problem. I don't know this, I don't know that. You don't want any of that. So set the expectation of, hey, I'm on a team. This is how the team works. This is how it's going to work with you starting now until we close. I had to learn that one the hard way. Make sense? Any other expectations? I know I've asked that like a million times. Are you seeing that there are so many expectations you can set? Now, this should only be a 45-minute to an hour-long meeting. So you don't have to have all these expectation meetings, right? Once you dig and you get to know them, find out what's important to them, and then have those expectation meetings. There are staples, like we have an outline for our buyer consultation, and I have cards up here I'm gonna pass out. If you need any of my stuff of what I bring with me in a buyer consultation, just come get one of my cards and email me and I'll share whatever with you guys. But like we have an outline that we follow, so there are certain things we hit every single time. But like for those of you who are familiar with the disc, if you're in front of a high C, you need to set a lot more expectations than if you're in front of a D. Right? If you're in front of a D, all you need to tell them is what you're gonna do, how you're gonna do it, and how quickly you're gonna do it. Right? For those of you who don't know the disc, get with me after class and I'll explain what I mean. Okay, any other questions around that? Okay, let's go to the biggie, and I would imagine these are where most of the questions are gonna be. Buyer's agreements, how to get them signed. Who's successfully done it before? See a few hands in the air, okay. Who has never asked? Okay, I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, I'm just like really, I'm trying to think if I think I might have gotten one before, but that's one thing I'm really bad at is like the transition into, because I feel like as soon as you break out paperwork for them to sign, they're like, oh, I don't know what's up, you know? I don't know, it's just.
I feel like I'll wait too late, like I done showed some houses, I'm like, okay, now.
Now it's time to do it.
Yeah, it's my fault though.
Okay. So for those of you who don't get them signed, is there any fear or anything around? No, this is a safe room, right? Pretend like that camera's not on.
Like not everybody else.
But are there any fears out there? Like, is it just fear of them not working with you? Is it a fear of just asking the question? What do you think has kept you from asking them to get it signed so far?
Yeah, I feel like just asking the question
Just
and just
asking
how
the
to bring
question.
it up.
Just asking the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you participated quite a bit. It sounds like you have buyer consultations pretty frequently.
I mean, not as frequent as I should, but I mean, I've had quite a few since I've been licensed, so.
Okay.
But I should probably have a lot more.
So what we believe is you can't ask for anybody's contact information or to sign any piece of paperwork until you've earned the right. So when we get the buyer agreement signed, it's the very last thing that we do, right? So transitioning into it, for me, is kind of seamless because I'm like, hey, listen, and this is a big question, right? This is very important. Once we incorporated this, it changed everything. Is there anything else that would stop us from working together? If they say no, they just signed it verbally, all you gotta do is slide it in front of them.
That's a no is a yes, yes.
Exactly. Is there anything else that's stopping us from working together? Right? Would anybody have a problem saying that question? Because I have different ones.
I mean, you can do it soon.
So for your high C's, you can say, listen, until I represent you, legally I represent the seller. That's one that I picked up in bold. Until I have a signed agreement with you, believe it or not, the way the multiple listing service and the way the agency law works, I represent the seller. Would you rather me represent them or represent your best interest?
You can also do a yes, no, mentee close. So does all of this make sense? Are
Totally.
you guys excited
Yeah.
to look for our house? Okay, well, are you excited to work together? Great, go ahead and fill out this
Yep.
one.
4 yes questions and then the close, right? Is it 4? Or is it
3 or 4.
3 or 4. I never knew there was a name for it. Thank you. So, I gotta remember that. But yes, so you ask them questions you know they're gonna say yes to. Has anybody ever gotten pushback on it?
Yes.
What pushback did you get?
They were out of town clients from the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and, long, lots of email, lots of, whatever. And then I sat down and they came to town, I'm gonna show them houses for 2 days. And, I asked them, and they felt like it was insulting, and that I needed that for people who had ethical problems, and why wouldn't they work with me? And to me, it's like, you have my word, I've been talking to you for 6 months, why would you need me to sign something? And they just found it very offensive. And I was like so shocked, like, yeah, we've had this, this is going on, and I'm gonna take you around Louisville and show you houses for 2 days, and this is just, this is what we do, and, they were furious.
You should have worked it out with them?
So, no, she signed, and, she had a real dominant personality, lived all over the country, bought lots of historical houses, and had, gone in and like redone them, that kind of thing, so they weren't first-time buyers or anything. And, she signed it reluctantly, and then at the end of the day, she was like, I want a copy of, what I signed. I went back to the office, gave her a copy, and then she had me, and I was on another team then, and she had the other team owner on the phone, and was just like, I shouldn't have had to sign this, and blah, 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 we've established a relationship, and I think it's insulting, you made it seem like my word wasn't good enough, that I was gonna work with you, and blah, 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 and after I showed them houses for 2 days, they didn't work with us.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's my biggest fear, exactly that reaction.
So,
But that's, how many
Couple-
houses I close, and that's one, so just.
Yeah.
couple things I would say there. So, if they bought and sold before, I would say, awesome. Have you ever listed your house and not had a contract signed? This is how we do things on the buy side.
But yeah, she does her own, she was like always a FISBO, like she sells her own houses.
So,
It was just weird.
second thing I would say, if they're that crazy, you don't want to work with them anyways. But I will say, I've never gotten pushback when I've done it. I've never ever had anybody say, hey, listen, I don't want to sign this or anything like that. So I really can't share anything from my perspective. I tend to make everything lighthearted. That's just who I am as a person. So when you were saying that, immediately my brain is going, well, I would have said I want you to sign it because I want to take a picture and frame it that I actually get to work with you. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah.
That's how I would have spun that. So does anybody else have any other times they got pushback? And was it successful? Was it not successful?
I'll say, my last job, I did something very similar, and I would bring a lot of emotion into it. Like, you know what, I've had a lot of customers that said they were gonna work with me and then brought another rep in, and I wasn't able to continue with that partnership. And it hurts me and it hurts them. And so it makes people understand kind of where you're coming from, instead of saying like, I'm not gonna waste 2 days and a paycheck because you won't sign a piece of paper. Like showing them that you're doing this for nothing to make something more than just a paycheck for both of you. That's what I usually did. I brought emotion into it, made them feel kind of bad and guilty.
Well, that's what I did, I'm like, she was in her 60s,
Mhm.
getting to move here and retire, had sisters here. She's like, I gave you my word and I shook your hand. And I'm just like, I
The next
appreciate
piece of that is writing your name right here.
I appreciate that, this is, this is business.
Right.
And I do respect and I appreciate your word and the handshake, but this, and so it was just,
Right.
it was just one of those, she was very, like, I'm a high IS and she had way more D and was very just over and,
Oh, yeah.
it was, and I kind of like, my personality is just like, fine, after she signed it and then she had the attitude after 2 days, you do get to where it's like, yeah, maybe, well, whatever. I don't need to pursue this anymore with 2 days.
Well,
It was a
you're
learning
anyway.
experience. It was a learning experience, but it was like, I was so totally shocked because I thought this woman, being of that decade or generation or age or whatever, would have just appreciated, hey, well, this is, I'm giving you my word and we're putting it in writing and, I'm gonna work hard for you and this is part of the process. And I thought she would have respected that. And it was just so over the top. I was like, I don't need this drama.
And that's the other thing. So new agents, people who aren't licensed yet, people who've been licensed for a little bit, you may not have experienced this. You do not have to work with everybody who comes across, who you come across, right? You can have a buyer consultation with someone and be like, oh my gosh, I will not work with you, you're crazy. You're the professional. You get to choose who you work with. And I will say the most liberating day of my life was when I fired a client.
Yes, it was good.
Right? When you are in an abundant mindset to where there's plenty of business out there, I can say no to some of it, game changer, right? Then you're not like, oh my gosh, let me do everything I can to secure all this new business. And when I was new, I was like, I don't want to fire them. They're like my only client. Right? We've all been there. We've all been there. Just let it go. The stress they're causing you, the hours of sleepless nights because they like reamed you for no reason at a showing, let it go, right? Just be like, listen, I don't think you and I are a good fit. And actually a very good script I heard at, I think it was 2 family reunions ago, that a buyer's agent used that I love, but I've never actually used, was, hey, listen, the goal of today's meeting, and then they go through a little bit like this, but they talk, to the client about it, and they say, and then at the end, we decide if we want to work together. So we actually updated our buyer agreement now, but the way it was worded, we had to sign it and they had to sign it also. And it was like us agreeing to do our part. And so what we would tell them is, hey, listen, based on what I've seen today, I'd like to work with you. Do you feel the same way? Right? You don't have to work with everybody. Sounds like Rhonda was spared a, oh my goodness, person that may or may not want to.
And it's hard because she was cash, and we were looking at, $350. It's hard, it's hard. And
You're
it's
just like, oh.
Yeah, but she was one of those. She had done it for so often. She knew everything about everything.
Oh, of course.
And like literally, like she could go in. I was showing the houses in Old Louisville and like Germantown, the Highlands. She could tell you like that tile's original. That looks like a blah 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 from a Yada in Italy, or that's not original. That was manufactured from Home Depot last year. I mean, she just knew textiles and flooring, and it was kind of overwhelming and intimidating. So it was like I used every script. I did everything I needed to do, and then after that, it was like, okay, this wasn't meant to be. Just I did what I could.
So what do you say when you're? How do you explain? Without reading through that whole agreement, what's your overview of how you explain the document to the buyer?
Would you like me to represent you? This
Yes.
allows me to do that. Now, I will say,
Like
we took a buyer's agency agreement, and you have the right to do this as well, but make sure that you do what you need to do, and I'll explain what I mean in a second. So we took it and we adjusted it and we made a WSG one. And we believe, and you can believe whatever you want to, we believe we will never go after someone for the money. The reason the buyer agency agreement is not to go after money if they go buy with someone else. I mean, it is, but it's not. Like, we're not actually going to go after the money because that's not what we believe, right? We believe if they go use someone else, we dropped the ball and there was something there that we did wrong. So we will never go after the money. The reason we get it signed is because we want them to make a commitment to us, and it's basically just there for, to signify that. So solidify that. So we never have the conversation of, hey, if you go use another agent, I'm entitled to the money. But that's kind of why they're there, right? So what I just tell people is, hey, is there anything that's stopping us from working together? If the answer is no, okay, great, would you sign this letting me represent you? So that's the way I present it. I present it as, do I get the opportunity and the privilege to represent you throughout this transaction? Am I going to be the only agent that win the interview? Right? And when you're on the phone with someone, this is totally another tangent, but I'm going to give it to you. When you're on the phone with somebody and they tell you they have an agent, ask the agent's name and ask if they've signed anything. right? Because it's super important. What did we talk about earlier? With internet leads, they probably talk to 1 million agents. They may be receiving, with our internet platform, if you sign up with us, you're gonna be fed listings. So people think they're working with us, and I've never met them, I don't know their name, I don't know what they look like, none of that. But if you called them and asked them, they may say I'm their realtor because they're getting updates from me. But if you ask them if they signed anything, and the answer is no, I haven't done my job, they're free game. Book a buyer consultation with them, get them to sign something with you, and they're your client. Right? And that's not unethical. Right? Any other questions? Did that answer yours? Okay. Any other times where you should have gotten a buyer agreement signed, or maybe you didn't? Maybe you got pushback and it failed, pushback and you succeeded? Anybody else want to share?
Yeah, when you're working with somebody and you sent them to go get them pre-approved and all that, and you were gonna meet them in the office,
Mm-hmm.
and then somebody they work with at their company hears about this, and then they just happen to be a real estate agent, and so you get pushed out of the picture when you didn't even get to the buyers. But you had been sending them stuff, you've been talking to them, you made the appointment to meet with the lender, and you were gonna get everything signed then and there. So, yeah.
Anybody ever run into that? How do you book an appointment?
Give them 2 options.
Look at you go.
I got Tuesday at 1:30 or Thursday at 2, which one works best for you?
Do you let the client set the appointment, or do you set the appointment? One thing, and I know he wouldn't care if I shared this, Jordan, who's on our team, he's a buyer's agent, he had an aha when he was going through Bold of, I'm the professional. If I give them my available times, they'll listen to me and try to make those times work. I think when you're a newer agent, you may not have that mindset yet that you're the professional. You are. You are the professional, so if you give them times, hey, I'm available at this time or this time, right? If you called a lawyer and said, hey, I need your time, and they gave you 2 slots, are you gonna do whatever you can to make it in one of those 2? How is this any different? You're a professional. I don't care if you've been in the business a month. I don't care if you're not in the business yet, right? You are still a professional. You have the professional license. You went through the grueling process of getting licensed, right? You're a professional. Give them 2 options that fit into your calendar, because 75% of the population will not understand that there's a 3rd option, which is their own. They'll try to make one of those 2 work. Right? Make it as soon as possible. That's the other thing.
And also, you don't wanna, like, I just said, well, who's the agent? Well, I knew who the agent was.
Right.
But I said, well, you're in good hands, so if anything happens and you need anything, so you don't bash the other agent.
No,
or
never bash.
that'll
never
turn
bash
around and
another
bite
agent.
you in the rear.
Right? That's bad karma.
Yep.
B, you wouldn't want someone doing that to you. C, it's out of KW culture. Build every other agent up, right? If they're saying they're working with so-and-so, they've signed the documentation, that's fantastic. I've heard great things. I've never personally done a deal with them. You sound like you're in great hands. I'm here if you need anything. Have fun on my website.
And you will get a call if that falls through. They'll
You
call
will.
you back.
They'll remember that, right? Don't be negative. You don't have to beat other people down to make yourself look good,
Amen.
right?
And if they feel like the other agent's too busy. So I've had people like, yeah, you seem really nice too, but gosh, it was the first person I met, and I did sign something, and they showed me one house, and then you go through that's great, let me know if you need anything. I've had people come back and say, you know what, I've been calling them for 2 weeks. I've been sending them texts, or, maybe they're on vacation, I don't know. I've seen 3 houses, whatever it is. Or I don't think I'm in, they feel kind of self-conscious, maybe they're only approved for 100,000, and they feel like, I don't think I'm the top priority or their only client, and I just can't hardly get them to take me out and show me stuff. They do come back to you, and as long as they've ended that the right way, then sure, they will remember you, and they do come back, and you make them seem like the priority, and you're more than willing to work for them.
Exactly. But never, ever, ever badmouth any other agent, KW or otherwise. Never.
Put that mute on.
Put that mute on and then say whatever you want to say. Right. Because if you haven't had a sit down with them, I mean, they don't know any better, right? They don't know how you work, they don't know anything like that. They know you've been sending them stuff online that you probably weren't sending them anyways, your automated platform was. Or even if you were taking 20 or 30 minutes out. They don't know how you actually work, right? So they're not really saying no to you, so don't let it get to you too much. All right, we're almost out of time. Does anybody have any final questions, need any other scripts? We got way off of this. I apologize for that. I tend to do that. But do you have any other questions? Anything else that I can help with while you have me for the next, I'll hang out for a little bit if you guys have questions. No?
Did you talk about where they find their buyer consult packets? Sorry,
No,
was in
I did not.
the beginning.
Oh, I'd like to know what that is.
So one of the way, well, first off, if you're on a team, you should be going to your team, because it's probably got your team logo. Maybe we could just show
Yeah,
them
go ahead.
on here. There's a couple of different places. If you've been through Ignite before, then you're familiar with how to get to the Ignite. This is the same place we went in the beginning when we signed up for the course, like attend this afternoon. Go to education, and then right here, it pops up Ignite. Scroll down to student resources. And you can see buyer's presentation, buyer's needs analysis. There's lots of really awesome stuff here. Pre-listing, presentation, all that, okay? So there's a lot of good tools there. The other place is if you go to Michael Lewis Marketing. When you first join Keller Williams, I open an account for you, michaellewismarketingsuite.com, and it's usually your email. Your password is usually MLMS password. And of course, that's not gonna work now, is it? Well, shucks. And do you have a,
I don't know mine.
Krista, what's
I
your,
don't find there enough.
what's your email? Is it Krista@bradlongbrick.com?
That's about right.
Oop. Brad, sorry, I should have had my, sign in ready. Should be MLMS password. And this site is great for flyers, if you have listings, open houses, whatever you need, there's all kinds of stuff here for you, business cards, hangers, all that good stuff. If you go to free stuff right here, then you can see listing, presentations, and buyer consultations right here, okay? And you can edit it, you can go in, make it beautiful, and make it customized to your info. It uses your account information here and it automatically populates that. So you can play around with that. There is one other place that you go to. You gotta go back to MyKW. So this is your third way to get it if you're not on a team. If you go to your eEdge, your My Leads. It's been a long time since I've been in here, but here we go. Marketing.
I have no idea how to do this.
Marketing Center. And I'm looking for print marketing.
Right there.
Thank you. It's changed since I've been in here. Print marketing. Hello.
You have to browse it.
Thank you. It looked completely different when I was here before. Design library, save designs. I believe I have one saved. I promise you there's a way for you to get what you need here. Maybe it's just not working out for me. Print. And maybe it's under guides. There we go.
There it is.
So your guide to buying a home, here's a buyer's packet, here's the guide. When you click on these, it should automatically populate your information, and then you can go in and edit each page. The only thing that I'll say about this one is if you edit it and then you download it, it becomes a PDF and it makes it a little more difficult for you to go back and update it if you need to. So what I did is one day I took what was here
and then I copied and pasted it onto a Word doc for myself, and that way I can continue to go in and update it. The one at Michael Lewis Marketing is much more beautiful, so I encourage you to check that one out. And just don't forget about going to KW Connect for Ignite and using those tools as well. Okay, yes ma'am?
I haven't looked at the calendar yet for the summer. Are you having a Michael Lewis, class this month?
I am, it's on Friday, December 21st. But if
Okay.
you would wanna meet with me beforehand, I usually do one-on-ones with people.
Okay.
You just let me know. Any other questions?
And if you guys want to see examples of that, again, I'm more than happy to share. I just passed out my business card. Shoot me an email, and I'll share everything that I have with you regarding a buyer consultation, every piece of paper that I bring. Just don't print it out because obviously it has our logo on it. But you're more than happy, more than happy to let you see it, and you can take it. I don't mind. Cool. No other questions? Awesome.
If I could just give one piece of advice, if you hadn't mentioned it before, sit in on somebody's buyer consults. I know that there are people here, agents and brokers alike, who would not mind me sitting in and seeing how it's done.
Absolutely.
Just sit in with them.
And
Sit in with different people. See what it's like.
I'm more than happy to do that. Just get with me beforehand to see what I have on the calendar. I have to ask the other people, the client's permission. But I'm more than happy to let whoever sit in on it. And obviously, I think it goes without saying, me, myself, Amy, I know the people in the back. If you have questions, anything like that, feel free to reach out to us about anything, buyer consultation or otherwise. We're here to help. Cool? Awesome.
Thank you.
Go kill it.